Hello, this is the LEGO Batman Mobile Bat Base. Now, does LEGO make too many Batman-based sets? Maybe. Do they make too many superhero sets that are based around vehicles? Probably. But not to worry. At least this one is pretty good. What we get here are 6 minifigs, and then the Mobile Bat Base itself is basically a semi-truck and trailer rig, which also has 4, 1, 2, 3, and there's one more, detachable separate vehicles. The truck or tractor unit has an 8-stud wide build for the most part, and then it goes beyond that as well. This has a bit of a 80s vibe to it, I'd say, an 80s sci-fi vibe, maybe a little bit post-apocalyptic, maybe a little bit military inspired. They did some different things up front. You can see with the sideways mounted bull bars of a couple different types to show some different sorts of reinforcement for the front of it, and also how the lights were mounted here is different from normal. Has some large tires, and as you look around the sides, obviously it has the big bat ears, which are just kind of pasted on, has large exhaust stacks, and then just the trailer hitch. And the trailer hitch is a ball style of unit, which actually allows this to articulate not just turning, but also leaning from side to side and going up and down. So it can go around turns, up and down grades, and also over uneven terrain without detaching from the trailer. I'll show you how that works. It's actually a good thing. And then there's this red thing on the back, which most of the time you don't see unless you have this separated out like this. And that's part of an action feature, of course. It has to do with this thing that comes down in the front. Looks like a skid plate, but that is actually, I'm just gonna hit that thing from the back. There we go. It's a launching point for this little water scooter, jet ski type of thing. The smallest of the add-on small vehicles. So this is able to hold on to a single figure and that's it. But hey, as simple as it is, it does work. And it does definitely add play value, and it doesn't really detract from the look of the truck when it's in there. If one thing's a shame here, it's that access to the interior is limited just through the roof, and that interior itself is limited as well. So you just have a centered steering wheel there, and basically accommodation for a single figure, which is a bit of a shame given that this is an 8-stud wide build. So, theoretically, it could have accommodated at least 3 figures. I think it is theoretically possible to get 3 figures in there. You may need to do a little bit of disassembly just to get your fingers down in there. But yeah, it's a little bit of wasted space, I think, for such a large cab as it is. The trailer unit has its own kickstand, so it's able to hold itself up by itself. So if you forgot something back at the Batcave, you can detach and then just send this back to pick up whatever it was. And then when it's time to reattach, it's very simple. Just lift this up and it just goes right down onto the ball joint, and this can just fold away. And this is where, like I said, you have that articulation where you can not only turn side to side as normal, but also go over hills because of the ball joint, and also go over rough terrain. So you just have more that you can do than what is normal for LEGO, especially tractor trailer rigs. There's not a whole lot that you can do from the outside of the trailer, which is really the base itself. You have a couple of storage units over here on the side. So this top one right now just has some studs for stud shooters. This has a couple of dive fins, just one set in plain black. So there are 2 of those in there. And on the other side are a couple of action features that don't do all that much for you from here. This relates to something on the inside. I'll show you that in just a moment once I open everything up. But there's also this lever here, because on the back is a holding cell. It's kind of like a temporary jail cell. So if another bad guy comes along and wants to break out the bad guy that's already in there, you can imagine that they, hook something up to this or use dynamite or whatever as usual. And then you can just break that out like that. It fell all the way to the floor, almost broke apart. That's okay. It's just a very typical normal thing that LEGO does frequently. And it's easy to access in that way. Other than that, you don't have any like fold out shooters or radar dishes or anything like that you can do from here. However, there is the entire pull off separate vehicle right here. Has the windscreen, so obviously this is going to come off, and it's a bunch that comes off. So this is its own thing. This is a flyer, and this has these wings that are able to come out. You can bring them all the way out if you want. I prefer to leave them in like about there. It's kind of a weird looking thing. Doesn't look particularly aerodynamic to me personally, but just imagine future tech. Make it work using your imagination. Yeah, personally just not a fan of this. Okay, you open this up. I like the fact that this is in the trans yellow color. We don't get that much, but yeah, simple old style of console in there, holds a single figure, and this also has its own deployable thing. So from this, once this is deployed, it can also deploy its own thing, which is the simplest of ATVs. A little quad here. It just hooks into a clip. That actually works pretty well. I mean, yeah, it's small, but I mean, how much do you really need for an ATV? You need to hold a figure and that's it. And see, it just clips back in. So this all works just fine, even if it looks kind of funky. And finally, the main section back here. This opens up simply, just folds away from you, and that gives you access to really the proper base. You know, this is really the base itself, because this is where people go in there and, you know, you suit up, you armor up, and you access consoles, and you look for bad guys, and, you know, strategize and all that kind of stuff. So you've got tools in here. You've got a couple places where you can stand minifigures. Like, you can just barely stand a minifigure over here on this gear. One can go over there, and then one can go in the seat. You know, all this space up here towards the front was reserved for the flyer. So that's not really usable space. I'm just going to leave it off for now, just to give you a little bit more visibility in there. But yeah, tools on the back. And, you know, so you saw the little bit of lobed gear in black sticking out from the outside. That just allows you to do this. So you can rotate a person around so that they're facing the main console screen, and you can access the different weapons and tools over here as well separately, including the all-important coffee mug down there. So that's a printed console piece that Ninjago, originally Ninjago cheese slope piece. Everything else that looks like a decoration is using stickers back in this area. There's also one additional print, which is a common one for the jail cell over here. So just one figure can fit in there. Got a couple of the batons for Nightwing, and yeah, just, you know, pretty normal stuff. So there's not a whole lot, honestly, that's going on for interior here for a base. There is one more feature, though, underneath the interior stuff, such as it is, and that's another deployment feature. This opens up, and inside is a bike, a Bat bike. So this is almost as simple as they get these days for Lego bikes, but I really like it. Just the color scheme worked out well. It's simple, and the sticker, you know, one sticker on each side. I like it, and, you know, it works, and it uses up this space between the axles. I think that was a good use of that space, and yeah, happy with that. Here's this set's version of Batman up close, and I'll leave it to the DC superfans out there to identify exactly which variant of Batman this is supposed to be from, exactly what storyline or derivation. This has the soft style of cape, so you can just lift that up to see the print on the back there. No print for the hip or leg pieces. The print on the head for this one is a bit thin. Once again, unfortunately, you know, just doesn't show the strongest of skin tone there. It's actually looking a bit pale, which is interesting because it means they put a good layer of white down so that you wouldn't get the bleed through from the black, but then they didn't put enough of the actual skin tone down. Oh well, but the expressions, I think, are fine in this version, and this year they've introduced another new thing that you can do with this character, like so. Check that out. Alternate cape included in the set. Now, this is not one of the soft forms. This is the more hard papery kind, but it's a little bit softer, I think, than most of the papery kind have been up to now. So it's not going to crinkle up quite as easily as the older ones did, but it's nice to, you know, to be able to get a little bit of extra action suggested in that. And depending upon exactly how you pose it, you can, you know, get it to angle slightly differently, but I appreciate just having the option there. You know, it didn't cost them much extra to do that, but it's cool. There's also this one, which is a bit different, and by default, it just kind of stays up, so you can bend it down if you want. But this one is symmetrical from side to side, and is just, I guess, more of a flying or walking fast on the ground kind of look. Again, just does things a bit differently. I don't know if in universe there are different significances to like having the pointed center or not, if those represent different variations. But I don't know, I just appreciate having options that you can use for different things on minifigures that are appropriate to those characters. The set comes with a Batgirl, and she has a small cape that is different in color on one side versus the other. So it's blue as facing towards us now, black on the back. That's nice. And this is, again, slightly papery kind of style, but I feel like they did update their cloth material for this year, for the older style. So it's a little bit less likely to crinkle again than the old ones. I feel like the printing here, again, is a little bit thin. In this case, on the torso, not too bad though. The edges look pretty good. The face print looks pretty good as well. The hands really stand out. I think the gloves are really important for this one. There's her alternate face. That's a good one as well. And just flipping this up real quick, there you can see the print on the back of the torso, which is pretty good. Similarly, Nightwing, I think, just looks appropriate, like as a Lego version of a Nightwing. Again, for me, not being a DC super fan, not being able to pick out all the specific variations and which exact episode or issue this particular outfit was seen in, it just looks right to me. I like the face. I like the outfit. Could have used more print, going down into the legs or something, but it's not absolutely critical here. I think that cut of hair works out well for this character. And there is a little bit of black on black printing on the back to add to the detail just a little bit. It helps the eyes, I think, when viewed from some angles. And this one also has an alternate face. That's a pretty good one. Let me show you how that gets framed up by the hair as well. Something like that. Yeah, it's good, And again, his weapons were in the base. Here's a Mr. Freeze for you. He thinks he looks very cool, of course. I think he looks pretty cool too. The print for the torso has some nice detail. They got some metallic details on there as well. And I think it just works out pretty well. Again, no print for the legs, but I feel like they kind of made up for that a bit with the actual built-up freeze ray weapon. I always appreciate when minifigs get weapons or tools that are built with multiple pieces. And that's pretty good. It's using the black originally Overwatch pistol piece as its base, and then they just added on to that. It's fairly simple. It's not too oversized. I think it just makes sense overall. Print on the back of the torso is especially good, again with some metallic bits on it. And let me just take the fishbowl helmet off. So the print does not go all the way around the head, unfortunately. That's just a fact of life. This one I feel really could have used some arm print, where they would have elevated the figure quite a bit. But as it is, maybe it's a little bit simple for all the details other than the face and the torso. But I'm personally fairly happy with this one as well, mostly because of how pure it is as a Lego figure. Here is Bronze Tiger, which is a character that I personally had never heard of before this set came out. So I have no right to properly criticize this one as far as how well it's done. You got the hood on the back there. Relatively subtle details with black printed on dark brown. It's a little bit difficult to see. I think the details that are there are done well, but again, it's just a little bit tough to see them. No print around the back of the head because he doesn't have hair or a headgear piece, so that perfectly makes sense. It's got the claws on there, which is about the best I think you can do, the most appropriate thing you can do for a Lego minifigure. And the print on the torso itself is very good. At least it's very well detailed, I personally feel. Last one here is Man-Bat. We've gotten a Man-Bat based on these same pieces before, but this time they went with white as the base skin and fur tone, so a little bit more of a vampire Man-Bat kind of look, and I really appreciate the print inside of the ears for this one. Beyond that, Here we did get some print for the hip and leg pieces, so that's good. Definitely helps quite a bit. Would have been very boring without that, especially with the almost monochrome print for the torso. You know, one around the back I think probably matches the detail level of the front, but it's not that high of a detail level. You know, they don't have too many of the individual creases or any suggestion of depth there. I think that's missing a little bit. Could have used a little bit more contrast. And beneath here, this one also does have an alternate face. That's a pretty funny alternate face and pretty well detailed with some fine lines and such. Here are this set's leftover or spare pieces, so not a lot to talk about there. And this is the spent sticker sheet. So there are quite a few stickers here, but I really felt like a lot of those could be easily left off. If you hate stickers, you're not going to lose a lot by probably skipping half of these, I'd say. They priced this set at $90 US, so the price to part ratio is not the greatest, but I feel like for the amount of stuff that you get here, the value is not terrible. I personally would love to see it at maybe like 80 retail. You know, take $10 off of it and I'll be much happier with it. But again, for the amount of stuff that you get here, the amount of things that you can do with this, for the number of figures, the nice balance between good guys and bad guys, even though these small add-on things are small, they're useful. They're very useful. And even though this motorcycle is so basic, just your standard Lego motorcycle these days, with only a single attachment on it, still looks really cool. You know, it just works out because of the bat color scheme. The thing that I like least here, by far, is the so-called bat jet. I don't feel like this even deserves to be called a bat jet. Like, call it something else. Just jet just sounds too sleek and fast and cool looking. Which this doesn't look like any of those things. It's got some exhausts on the back, but I mean, it looks like a fish, like a puffer fish or something. It would make more sense as a submarine, honestly. So yeah, just not the greatest design decisions with this and its tiny little wings. What are those? What are those supposed to do? Come on. No, you're not fooling anybody. If anybody watching this, that's probably been commented about already 100 times, but if anybody's a fan of Lego Agents, the original Lego Agents series, and you find this to look very familiar, well, there's absolutely no coincidence there. It's not a matter of copying or cheating or some sort of evil plan by Lego to be lazy. No, the designer actually wanted to make like a bat version of that Agents original base, mobile base set. And so they did. It's a Lego design. So just that is what it is. If you don't like that, that's fine, but it is what it is. Overall, I think that they did a good job here. There are a few quirks. If this was smaller or less tall and left enough room for some other things to be done in the front of this trailer, I think that would have been better. But otherwise, and also a little bit more space inside of the main cab there, or use of the available space would have been a good thing. Figures are pretty good. Some of them are a little bit lacking in total amount of print. Batman himself, again with the face, at least it's not see-through to the black, so it's not looking too much like a knockoff like some versions have, unfortunately. But they still need to work on their print quality some more. Looks like they are starting to work on it, but they need to work on it some more. Now, the action features with this thing, I think, work perfectly fine. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the set. Oh yeah, I also like the inclusion of the extra cape pieces this year, and I hope that they will continue to do little experimentations like that in the future. I did a pure build of this in real time. I also have the speed build, standard time-lapse style. If you want to check out one of those, the respective channels are linked from the video description. I'm going to move on to the next thing. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you again soon.